Is there a time machine in SpongeBob exclusively for photographs?
Cheese.
It's a strange question, but that's exactly what seems to happen in the episode The Original Fry Cook, when Jim, the former fry cook of the Krusty Krab, appears on the scene. Throughout the episode, we see flashbacks of how Jim used to look, with much more hair and without the beard. But in the present day, many years later, he looks a bit different, with less hair and more beard, even though he still wears his old work uniform. The strange part is that when they show the picture from his time as the Employee of the Month, which means from the past when he worked there, the appearance we see is how he looks today, not how he looked in the past when he worked there. It's very odd, almost as if he took the picture in the present and sent it back in a time machine to the past.
Your Best Employee Ever Award!
This is just the first of the 12 mistakes you never noticed in today's SpongeBob. In the 10th episode of the second season, titled No Free Rides, something very strange happens in the scene where SpongeBob secretly enjoys the car his parents gave him. He's so fixated on the vehicle that he even takes off his own socks to warm up the car. Up to this point, it's in line with SpongeBob's usual craziness. But the weirdest thing happens right after, when SpongeBob decides that the best thing he can use to warm up the car is his own body. And we can see that he's wearing the same socks he had taken off just a few seconds before. The only explanation for this would be if Bob was wearing socks under his socks. Or maybe it was a Nickelodeon mistake.
Take my socks. Oh, Bodie, I'm always gonna take care of you.
Everyone knows that one of Squidward's favorite pastimes, apart from despising SpongeBob, is dancing, even though he's terrible at it. In the episode Slimy Dancing, he, Patrick, and SpongeBob sign up for a dance contest, but in the end, only SpongeBob gets to participate. And when Squidward is walking home devastated and crying, he hits his head on a bamboo and falls to the ground. And when Patrick helps him up, for a brief moment, Patrick's mouth completely disappears, as if it evaporated, but then reappears immediately after. We all know that despite being a complete goofball, Patrick Star has some almost brilliant moments. One of them was when he spent an entire episode making everyone believe he was a business executive. This happened in the episode The Executive Treatment. In this episode, we have another important character named Marv, who ends up competing with Patrick, at least in the ability to stamp people, and for that reason, he ends up being sent home. But here's where things get bizarre. If Marv had been sent home and had even left, how is it that he's back there shortly after when Patrick tells everyone that he's not an executive? Well, my friends, mysteries from the depths of the sea. In the episode Under the Small Top, where Squidward is dealing with a flea problem at his house, which we talked about in one of our previous videos, someone noticed another mistake. When SpongeBob's neighbor sees all those things flying on their own and thinks the kitchen is haunted, on the floor near the kitchen counter, there's a kind of trash can. But when he decides to run away in a hurry, the trash can simply disappeared. They might not have ghosts floating kitchen stuff in Squidward's kitchen, but maybe that trash can was really a ghost to vanish like that. SpongeBob's family doesn't seem to be very large, as far as we know. That's why whenever a new relative appears, like in the case of Uncle Captain Blue's SquarePants in the episode Blackjack from Season 5, when Bob arrives at his uncle's house to ask for help to save his family, one of the things that catches his attention is all the grass under Uncle Captain Blue's house. So much that SpongeBob has to mow it all. But shortly after, when SpongeBob himself returns to his uncle's house to talk to him again, there's no more grass in the backyard. I know SpongeBob is very dedicated to everything he does, but he definitely didn't remove all that grass. The artist must have forgotten to put it back. If you're a SpongeBob fan and love to hear that annoying laugh from Mr. Krabs as much as we do, comment below, #I'm ready, just like SpongeBob likes to say. Many people forget, but Sandy Cheeks also has bosses, just like everyone else, as we can see in the episode Chimps Ahoy! And she gets so nervous and desolate that she decides to leave before getting fired. And while she waits for the bus, she's accompanied by her inseparable partner, the guitar. And that's exactly how we notice this very subtle mistake. When Sandy is sitting waiting for the bus, we can see that her guitar has only 3 strings. But a few minutes later, when she's about to get on the bus to leave, if you notice, you'll see that now there are not 3 strings, but 4. Did she add another string while the episode was going on? I find that highly unlikely.
Farewell, Bikini Bottom. Now I really hate to go.
All aboard!
Will this bus take you somewhere when you've got nowhere else to go?
Probably the most famous place in Bikini Bottom is the Krusty Krab, at least for those of us who watch SpongeBob. However, the artists like to make some mistakes in this beloved location where the world's best Krabby Patties are made. That's exactly what happened in the episode Sailor Mouth, where Patrick and SpongeBob start saying dirty words that come out sounding like dolphin noises. To punish them, Mr. Krabs decides to make them paint the entire restaurant, but he hits a rock along the way. And if you look closely, the oyster-shaped sign with the name of the Krusty Krab simply isn't there. Could it be that they would have to paint that sign too, so that's why it wasn't there?
My foot! What? She just put a rock in a bath! Can't you see?
If there's one thing Mr. Krab loves to do, it's making money. And for that, he always has to put his employees to work. But in the episode The Krusty Sponge, he does something completely new and organizes a team-building moment for them. That's a really nice thing for a boss to do, but it doesn't prevent mistakes in the episode. For example, when Mr. Krab gets 2 stuffed walruses, we can see that their teeth are light. But right after, when they're all sitting on the grass, we notice that the teeth of the stuffed animals have changed color and are now orange. Speaking of animation mistakes, we found another one that follows a somewhat similar vibe to the previous error. In the episode Le Big Switch, Mr. Krabs organizes a switch, sending SpongeBob to a fancy restaurant and bringing a renowned chef to take his place. But when SpongeBob decides to return, he collects all the Krabby Patties that were in the restaurant he had created and stuffs them into a briefcase. Notice that they're wrapped in a red cloth. But in the very next shot, the cloth changes color and becomes yellow out of nowhere.
So long!
In the episode Whirly Brains from the 10th season, a very strange thing happens. Well, everything in SpongeBob is strange. Flying brains are even stranger. But there's something even stranger than all of this in this super weird episode. At a certain point, a little boy tells his father that he also wants a flying brain as a toy, and his father tells him no. But later, when SpongeBob and Patrick retrieve all the brains and they go back into their respective bodies, one of the first to receive his brain back is exactly the little boy, whom his father forbade from having a flying brain. Did the father change his mind? I don't think so. It was just another mistake from SpongeBob. And to wrap it up, we have one of those errors that always happen in SpongeBob when the artists are feeling a bit lazy. In the episode The Sponge Who Could Fly, we see SpongeBob trying to fulfill his new dream of flying, and he succeeds. But the Bikini Bottom residents don't quite like the idea, and they end up bringing SpongeBob down from the skies. Well, it wasn't exactly the skies since they're underwater, but I think you got it. So they regret it and decide to have a funeral for SpongeBob's clothes and completely ignore him. And during the clothes burial, we can see that the same guy who's on top of the coffin crying is also looking at himself at that moment, right at the bottom part of the scene. Man, when the artists want to avoid effort, they randomly duplicate characters. Those were the 12 absurd mistakes from SpongeBob that we brought to you today. We really want your participation. If you've noticed any mistakes in any episode of the most famous sponge in history, write them down below, and we might mention them in the next video and give you a shout out. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Until next time, bye-bye!